Welcome to the Sweat Simple podcast. My name is Brooks Herbis, and I'm an online fitness coach helping people simplify and make sense out of the all too confusing fitness and nutrition industry. In this episode, I'm talking all about how to stop the never ending cycle of gaining weight. So grab a coffee, water, glass of wine, or lace up your walking shoes, and let's dive in. Now, before we get into this episode, I wanted to let you know that doors open for the next round of my group coaching program, Crush Your Consistency, on Sunday, March 10th. If you don't know, CYC is my 8-week group coaching program that's built for perfectionists just like you. My ladies who feel like they do everything right, but no matter how hard you're working, the scale just won't budge, or even worse, is going up. Over the course of these 8 weeks, you'll learn that your body is not broken and how to bridge the gap between food freedom and enjoying social events while still losing weight and feeling amazing in your body. This program only runs a few times a year, and I would love to see you in this round. I'll drop the link to join in the show notes, so pause this episode, go sign up, and then come back here to get into the nitty-gritty. Now, something I hear often from millennial women is that you feel like your body is broken. You work so hard, you do all the right things, but no matter how many times you go to the gym, how healthy you eat, the scale just won't budge. And in fact, sometimes it goes up. You swear it has to be your metabolism, the fact that you're aging, maybe even your hormones. But here's what I've seen is actually happening. At this point, most of us have rejected diet culture. Like, we look back at the days that we would Google how to lose belly fat and get your workouts from Pinterest and all those restrictive diets we would try, and we cringe. We know that that is no longer the answer, and that's not what we should be doing in order to be healthy. But at the same time, maybe that's the only thing that's worked for you. You haven't yet seen success from allowing yourself to not be restrictive or not do hours of cardio. So there's that little voice in the back of your head that's telling you that that must still be the right way to lose weight, even though you know you shouldn't be doing fad diets, even though you don't want to be restricting anymore. That's still the only thing that's actually worked for you to date. And it still feels like maybe that's just what you're meant to be. Like, maybe all these people who are preaching food freedom and no restriction and no food labeling, maybe they don't know your body. Maybe something's wrong with your body and it has to be restriction. I'm here to tell you, I promise you, that's not the case. I have helped hundreds of women lose weight who feel like they were in this exact spot. They feel like nothing they're doing is working. They feel like their body has to be broken. They feel like weight loss has just gotten so much older now that they're at a certain age. And I promise you that even without restriction, even without doing hours of cardio, we have still allowed them to see success, feel amazing in their body, and really enter this new era of their health. So I promise you, you don't need to find restriction, but what we do need to do is learn how to find true balance. Now, the reason the scale keeps climbing up is because right now you're operating in extremes. You're either eating really clean and healthy, or you're allowing yourself to have that full food freedom, that's a tongue twister, enjoying the pizza, the guac, the charcuterie, the wine every single weekend. And this is where I've really found the fitness industry falls short. Like, everyone likes to preach balance, but how do you actually find balance? Where's that middle ground between ditching the fad diets, not being restrictive anymore, but also still making progress towards your goals? Where's that middle ground between allowing yourself some flexibility with the food you eat, but not going overboard and overindulging every single time? This is a big gap in the fitness industry, and it's exactly why I created Crush Your Consistency. I see a lot of coaches promoting balance, but I didn't see any sort of program that taught you how to actually achieve it. So I created it because actually understanding how to find that balance is the most important part. It's one thing as a coach to like preach balance and show that you yourself have found balance and, to say like, don't label foods. I obviously do that as a coach, but it's another thing to actually help people find that balance that feels so easy for everyone else. So to me, Finding balance is all about losing weight and making progress towards your goals, but still enjoying your life along the way. It's knowing that you can go out with your friends and there's no reason to feel guilty about it, but at the same time, you'll still see the scale move. So, how do you actually achieve this balance? Honestly, it is a multi part process. First, you need to gain the education about not just portion control, but nutrient quality too. It's important to understand that healthy foods still have calories, but also why we need to prioritize certain macro and micronutrients. So it's not just about counting calories and being in a calorie deficit, and it's not just about eating healthy. Ideally, you really want to be pairing the two together because at the end of the day, weight loss comes down to energy balance, and it is really important to understand portion control, to understand how much you should be eating in order to properly fuel your body. But it's also really important to understand the types of foods that are going to leave you feeling good. So we really need to bridge that gap and find that balance between not just counting calories and being in a calorie deficit and not just eating healthy, but really mirroring the two together so that you're focused on, yes, weight loss, but also overall health. The second part of the process in terms of finding balance is all about improving your relationship with food. You already know we've ditched the fad diets, but it's time to completely let those mindsets go. No food needs to be off limits, and once you can truly feel comfortable with that, the food's going to be less exciting overall. I'm going to be honest with you, this is going to be the hardest part of the process. Improving your relationship with food is not easy, and that's why it can be so helpful to work with a coach in order to get yourself there. Because you can tell yourself all day long that you're allowed to eat Oreos now, but if you've never figured out how to eat the Oreos in moderation, you're going to continue to struggle. And you might still have that little voice in the back of your mind that every time you eat an Oreo is saying that you just did something bad. And without even realizing it, you start to have those feelings of guilt. And then before you know it, you've thrown in the towel, you've given up, and then you're waiting until that next time to start all over again. This is why it can be so difficult to improve your relationship with food. You're really trying to overcome mindsets and beliefs that you have had oftentimes for years, sometimes decades. And that's why this isn't going to happen overnight, but it's about slow and impactful progress over time. So start getting comfortable with the fact that truly no food needs to be off limits. All foods are good. You're not amazing and fantastic for eating a salad, and you're not a horrible, terrible person for having some ice cream. All foods can be neutral, all foods have a place, and all foods fit. And this is where that first step can really play into your second step. First, you need the education, and you need to really understand how energy balance works, how a calorie deficit works, how overall weight loss works, and then you can start to feel more comfortable about incorporating a lot of these foods, learning how to do so in moderation, and really ditching the food guilt. So once you have the education, once you start working through your mindsets, the last part of this process is to put your patient pants on. It is tempting to give up after a few weeks. And if you are coming from that place where you've only done fad diets in the past and that's the only thing that's worked for you, you're probably used to seeing some really quick progress. But remember, if those diets truly worked for you, then you wouldn't have gained the weight back and you wouldn't be struggling right now. So it's time to remember that what got you there in the past won't actually get you into this next phase of your health. You need to stay patient. You need to focus on these slow and sustainable changes, which are going to take long, which probably is going to frustrate you. But that's another part of the process, is being okay with slow progress this time around and remembering that quick progress was not sustainable. And ultimately, quick progress did not get you to where you want to be either, because ultimately, you're at that starting point again. So instead, I want you to put your patient pants on and commit to the long-term process, because if you can do that this time around, you're actually going to maintain your progress. So we're going to get out of that cycle of, losing the weight, gaining it back, having to do this all over again. And instead, we're just going to be in this for the long term, accept that it's going to take a little bit longer than what we're used to, but also know that once we do it, it's done and we're not going to have to do it again. Now, I walk you through this entire multi-step process in Crush Your Consistency. So if this sounds like what you need, and you also need help with the implementation and accountability along the way from an amazing community of women, make sure you join this round in my bio before doors close on 3/17. Now, I know that was a lot to take in, and like I said, it's not going to be an overnight process. This is going to take time. It's going to take a lot of work to ditch these old mindsets, to feel comfortable with a new approach, but also remember that there's a reason you're stepping into this new phase of your health. You know that those fad diets, that restriction, that's no way to live long term. And you're ready to try something new. You're ready to step into this new phase, and you're ready to not just see quick, short progress, but truly build a lifestyle. That wraps it up for this episode of the Sweat Simple podcast. As always, thank you guys so much for listening. It really means so much to me when you screenshot these episodes, share them on your story, so that we can really continue to build this amazing community. So I really appreciate when you subscribe, when you review, when you share with friends. And as always, if you have any questions about anything I talked about in that episode, shoot me a DM. I would love to chat through it with you more. But thank you guys so much for being here, and I'll talk to you next week.